Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to part 8 of using the Power Platform to extend finance and operations apps, where today's topic is Power Virtual Agents. My name is Evan and I'll be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this web conference through Teams live events and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. Today's web conference is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation, and by participating in the session using Microsoft Teams, your name, email address, phone number, and/or title may be viewable by other session participants. If you do not consent to being a part of a recorded session, please disconnect at this time. The recording will be made available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within 5 business days. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions throughout the session, and there will be time at the end for further questions. Closed captions are available today in Spanish, French, German, Italian, Chinese, and Russian. To turn on closed captioning, click the CC button located on the lower right-hand corner of your screen, and to change languages, click the gear icon and select your choice. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Now let's get started. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Rachel Profit, Senior Program Manager, and Murali Kumanduri, Senior Program Manager. Rachel, over to you.
Thanks, Evan, and thank you everyone for joining us today. I'm super excited for this part in our series. Today we're going to be focusing in on the Power Virtual Agents, which is kind of the newest player to the game in the Power Platform. Again, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Rachel. My contact information is here on the screen. I encourage you to follow me on Twitter, connect with me on LinkedIn, or check out my blog at dynamics365lady.com. Also joining me today, I have Murali. I'll let him go ahead and introduce himself. Murali?
Hi, I'm Murali Kumanduri. I'm a program manager with Dynamics 365 Commerce team. I also used to work with Power Virtual Agents.
Awesome. So let's go ahead and take a quick look at the objectives for today's Tech Talk. We're going to start out by introducing Power Virtual Agents and talk a little bit about how you can use them in an enterprise setting. We'll also describe a variety of use cases of how you can use Power Virtual Agents with your finance and operations data and demonstrate how you can get started. So we're going to show you how to build your first Power Virtual Agent. We're also going to take a look at a number of different examples of real-life Power Virtual Agents and how you can use those with your finance and operations data. We'll also be taking a look at some do's and don'ts for designing your virtual agents with your finance and operations apps. Some things that we're not going to be covering in today's session are detailed licensing and authentication aspects. We're also not going to be taking a look at Powerapps or Power Automate. If those are topics of interest for you, I do encourage you to check out the recordings of our previous sessions, which are all available out on the Tech Talk community page. We also won't be going into detailed aspects of the bot framework or the composer in today's session. We'll do some kind of light introduction to it, but if that interests you, we do have some links at the end of the deck in our resources section where you can learn more about the bot framework and the composer. So let's take a look at the flow of our session in the agenda. So we're going to start off with an introduction for those of you who may not be familiar with Power Virtual Agents, since it is the newest player to the game. Then we'll talk about our use cases and how to get started with Power Virtual Agents. Then I'm going to hand it over to Murali, who's going to walk through a number of different examples of virtual agents so you can see them in action, as well as how to build some of those. And then he's also going to take a look at the live agent transfer with you on how to do the Omni channel for customer service. And then we'll wrap up today, like many of our sessions, with the do's and don'ts and a checklist and a variety of resources to help you on your journey with Power Virtual Agents. So with that, let's go ahead and dive right in to part 1. And I want to talk a little bit about the kind of 2 ways that we can build a bot. If we can go ahead. Perfect. So there are 2 options for building bots, and with many of the applications that we have in the Power Platform, you can choose between a platform as a service approach or a software as a service approach when you're creating your bot solutions. Or you can kind of use both together. So the great thing about Power Virtual Agents and the bot framework is Power Virtual Agents is built on top of the bot framework in Azure, and you can use it with or just take advantage of the no-code, low-code aspects of Power Virtual Agents. It's important to note that with the bot framework that's built on Azure, it's really more developer-oriented, so there's no UX layer or user interface, and your developers have to create and manage the bot by using code. Also, it's not a software as a service, it's a platform as a service option. So if you choose to use the bot framework, you actually have to deploy, host, and self-manage your bot in Azure using your own Azure resources. So there's a lot of flexibility there in terms of what you can do. What I want to do is talk a little bit more about how the Power Virtual Agents are built on the Power Platform. If we can go to the next slide. Thanks. So as I said, like the Power Virtual Agents is, you know, the newest player to the game in the Power Platform. And this means that we get access to 400 plus connectors that are available with the Power Platform out of the box. And we can extend our Power Virtual Agents and connect our data from Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations, your Office 365 or graph information, and hundreds and hundreds of other connectors. But all of this Power Virtual Agents is also built on top of that bot framework. And the bot framework is, again, you know, that's more centered towards the developer because there's no user interface and it does require coding, but that bot framework is designed for you to kind of create knowledge and skills, connect to lots of different devices, create like adaptive cards and things like that, like through various types of input, and then publish those out to a variety of different types of channels and host that on Facebook, Twitter, websites, you know, any kind of application that you might have. And all of this is integrated with the Azure Cognitive Services. So from an input and even an output standpoint, we can use a lot of the speech and machine learning and so on. But because we're built on the same framework, the bot framework itself is actually leveraging a lot of that language, natural language recognition, so that when users type in a question into the bot, we're kind of converting that so that we can map that through, you know, the questions and the topics that you build in either the bot framework or in Power Virtual Agents directly. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of some of the things that Power Virtual Agents help you address. So Power Virtual Agents addresses a number of concerns, and it is designed for your customers and subject matter experts, as well as IT admins and developers, to be able to quickly and easily create bots without code being needed. And customers will benefit from Power Virtual Agents because they experience an enhanced customer experience or developer experience, if you will, without having to code. And that's going to reduce wait times for your customers. It offers engagement anytime they need it. And you can answer many basic questions very quickly and accurately. Your subject matter experts in your organization can also focus greater time of going deeper into their subjects and spending less time addressing basic customer experiences. This ensures that when customers do speak with a subject matter expert, the conversation is of greater value and goes into a deeper subject. IT admins will also benefit from the ability to govern and secure the chatbots that are created by Power Virtual Agents. With its ease of use, Power Virtual Agents enable many people to be able to quickly create chatbots. And it's important that these chatbots are visible and can be administered centrally when you need Power Virtual Agents and, you know, across your organization, and it offers that visibility and control that you need. So I want to go ahead and switch gears a little bit and talk about our use cases. We've prepared a number of use cases and examples for you with the Power Virtual Agents. So the first example is an employee chatbot. The idea behind the employee chatbot is where I want to engage as like an HR department or an IT department with the employees in my organization. You can embed an employee chatbot as a part of your employee self-service workspace, like directly in Dynamics 365 Human Resources, or inside of a portal like a Powerapps portal, or it could be part of a Teams site as an example. Things that you might use it for include asking questions about HR, procurement, benefits, and time and attendance, or expenses. The second example is a vendor-facing chatbot. So the suppliers and the external people to your organization are one of the examples of people that your purchasing department is likely interacting with on a regular basis. If we can kind of handle a lot of the basic questions that your vendors ask around onboarding, terms, goods receipt, invoice matching, and payment between your procurement and your accounts payable team, we can make your procurement and AP processes much more efficient. You would typically embed something like this into a vendor portal or maybe even into your external website. So I want to talk a little bit more about some of the capabilities that are available for building out your own employee virtual agent, some things that you can consider. And there are some content packs and samples that you can start from and then extend those to use Power Automate to hook in your Dynamics 365 finance and operations data. So inside of Dynamics F&O and in Dynamics 365 Human Resources, we have an abundance of HR related functionality, to manage your profile, things like your office details, like which building you're in, where you might park, or, a car that you might be assigned as a fixed asset, the time that you're working. So that can be like your leave and absence requests, or it could be clock ins and clock outs. Obviously, we've got full benefits and compensation management type information and payroll related information as well that could be integrated in. You might even, from a payroll perspective, you might kind of pull data from multiple sources, including like your external payroll system, as well as compensation information that's found directly in Dynamics 365. All that HR personal information that you can get to from employee self-service could be managed. People could ask questions or make updates to that information with a bot, as well as all of that career and job information, skills, certificates, performance, and so on. You might also use it for procurement related things. So a way for an employee who maybe doesn't have access to the system but wants to request some new items. So you could use it as a way for your employees to interact with the kind of procurement team in your organization to get those purchase requisitions created. It could also be used for your employees to interact with IT, service management, help desk. It could even be like for maintenance type scenarios in a manufacturing facility if you need to request building maintenance or even maintenance on equipment in your facility, as well as travel and expense and training and learning management type content. So there's a lot of flexibility there that's available that you could start using. So in our next slide, we're going to talk a little bit about the procure to pay process. So there's a lot of ways from a vendor perspective that we could use, or even an employee perspective, to help automate your procurement process. So this could be a virtual agent that's facing your employees in employee self-service, or it could be facing your vendors via a vendor portal. From that kind of get-go of a process, right, we're creating a requisition, and like I said, not all your employees may have access to a Dynamics 365, but they might have a need to request information. So you can give them a way to interface with your procurement team and automatically create those purchase requisitions. And then we have approval processes, and people might have questions about what's the status, is it in RFQ, has the bid been approved, and if I'm a vendor, vendors might have questions about an RFQ or planning or maybe larger contracts that you have in place. So you could build out a virtual agent or a chatbot that helps address those questions that people have. It could also help address questions that people have around shipping and receiving, as well as the kind of invoicing and EDI end of things with the three-way matching that occurs. So the last two examples we have are quality management and a business-to-business customer portal. So with our quality management example, this again could be internal, where the quality team in your organization is using it. It could also be external if you're contracting out lab tests with a third party, or even for your vendors or customers, depending on kind of the types of products that you're servicing. You could embed this as a third-party app directly into supply chain management. You could put it into a Power App that your quality assurance team uses when they're out on the floor in your manufacturing facility, for example, or maybe when they're out and about. It could be used with your sales team to go, check your retail stores and ask questions and things like that, and get details about equipment that might be out at your customer sites, for example. Customers or other employees in your organization could be asking questions about quality test results. You could even use it in like maintenance type scenarios from a quality standpoint. If a machine is breaking down, or we kind of break down past a certain quality level, we now need to do maintenance on a machine and integrate that with your asset management, or if you're in a field service type scenario. So a lot of ideas there of what you could do or build a bot for to help automate those business processes. And the last example with the business-to-business customer portal, this can actually be embedded as a part of the customer portal. We have a link here at the bottom of the page where you can get the details about the customer portal for Dynamics 365 supply chain management. You'll actually be seeing an example of this a little bit later on today. The idea here is that we can address questions about payments, onboarding, products, pricing, discounts, and so on in that virtual agent without needing a person to be present to answer those. And if we can reduce the number of calls in your call center, we can be much more efficient with the efforts of your call center workers. And then the idea here is that we can, use virtual agents alongside with Power Automate, and we could send proactive messages, for example, from an AR perspective on overdue collections, or even send like shipping notifications, things like that. So when we kind of embed all of these things together and combine them, you can really start to automate these business processes. So let's go ahead and kind of switch gears a little bit. I'm going to talk about how you can get started with building your very first Power Virtual Agent. So what I want to do first is talk a little bit about the architecture and introduce some terminology. So the bot itself is the chatbot, and much like we build apps, when you're building a Power Virtual Agent, you can build one or more of these Power Virtual Agent bots in each Dataverse or Common Data Service, as it used to be called, environment. Each bot that you create has user topics and system topics. So user topics are what you're going to build and expand upon. And when you create a new bot, you're going to get free for predefined topics that you can either delete, or you can just start to edit those and then obviously create more. It's very common that you would have a large number of topics. It depends on kind of what the business scenario is for your particular bot. And then we also have those system topics. System topics, you can edit those messages, but you can't delete them. And they're there as part of the system, like for things like your greeting, your goodbye, the survey at the end, and so on. And these are the building blocks for your conversation. You always need to start with a greeting, and when you finish a conversation, you'll want to end that conversation. And you might want to include a survey to ask if we answered their question and if they were satisfied with the answer we gave them. And then all of these have this concept of a conversation tree. So these conversation trees are where we can start to branch out and get more creative in what our business process look like. When you build that conversation tree, each user topic has what we call trigger phrases. And the trigger phrases are where I'm using AI and that language recognition, but you can build out like what the sentences are or the phrases that will trigger it to come into a particular topic. And then we can start to use entities where I pull in data, either from a pre-built entity like City, which you'll see an example of that later on, or a custom entity where maybe I'm pulling in data that doesn't exist in the kind of pre-built example. And when I start to use Power Automate with this, and you can use many Power Automates in a single topic, that's where I can start pulling in data from external sources like finance and operations. And you can also use the bot framework to build skills. And that bot framework is where it starts to get a little bit more technical, and you've got that no cliffs experience where you can get super creative, but it will require a developer to do some of that work. So I want to quickly look at kind of the overview of the entire process for creating a bot. And what we're going to do is kind of start at the top here and kind of work our way around the circle. So when you get started, you're going to create the bot, and it's a very simple user interface that's very similar to the experience that you use when you're building a Power Automate flow or a Power App, for example. You can start out with starter topics, and you can also build upon the existing ones, or you can pull in from like your frequently asked questions or an existing website and so on to get started by creating topics. So you'll create these topics, you might create variables and kind of start creating some of that branching. And once you've kind of created a topic, then you're going to want to start thinking about how you want to integrate and automate your business process to make this easier for the users. So the idea here is that we can integrate that bot with backend APIs by using Power Automate. So if I need to get some data out of finance and operations, say about a sales order or about benefits or leave and absence information, I can connect using the Power Automate Flow connector for Dynamics 365 and get that information. Now, once you've got the basics built, you can start extending your bot with bot framework skills and using the composer for your more complex scenarios. And that's the more developer focused. We're not really going to be looking at that part too much in detail today, but the last part of the process is to publish your bot out to your bot framework channels. So that's where you're going to decide, am I going to publish this out to Facebook? Am I going to put it on my website? Where do I want this bot to be available? And you might have different bots that get published to different channels and serve different purposes. Or you might have a single bot that you publish out to lots of different places. Once you're done kind of building and publishing your bot, though, you're not done. It's important that you remember that you want to monitor your bot performance and work to improve your topics, add new topics, handle the edge cases as much as possible. And to help you with that, we've got built-in analytics that are built on top of Power BI right inside of Power Virtual Agents to make that whole process easy for you. So let's take a look at the process on how to create a new virtual agent. It's a very easy process. You'll open the Power Virtual Agents Designer and click on the bot icon and then select New Bot. You'll want to choose a name for your bot and then click the Create button. Next, you're going to want to start viewing and creating topics. Like I said before, a bot is going to come with 4 user topics and 8 system topics. You'll typically want to update those system topics to be reflective of what the use of your particular bot is for. So you'll see some examples of that in a demo a little bit later on. And I recommend using one of the 4 topics to get familiar with the structure and start building your scenarios and your questions and answers. Now, on each one of your topics, you're going to want to build out your conversational trigger phrases. And each one of your topics needs to have the appropriate phrases that are relevant to that particular topic. In the example, our topic is related to lawn concerns, so we define trigger phrases which are relevant and likely for a lawn problem. So you can see lawn issues, brown yard, terrible backyard, issues with front yard, issues with grass, and so on. So the idea here is that any of those things can trigger it to come into this particular topic, and then we can start to route that through. And the AI engine behind the scenes, you don't have to put every single possible way that they might say it, because the AI will trigger based on these trigger phrases. It learns these are the things that also mean the same thing. So after you've defined your authoring, or sorry, your trigger phrases, you're going to start authoring on the canvas and begin editing your topic. And this is done by clicking on the authoring canvas button. It looks like the little hierarchy button that you see over here on the left with the like 3 little squares. And it's easy to use and understand. So once you're in that authoring canvas, in a lot of ways, it's very much like creating a Power Automate flow where I kind of create the flow of the steps, what's going to happen in the conversation. And I might branch that out to have different things happen depending on the answer that I get or the response that I get in that bot conversation. So once you've kind of started editing this, then you're ready to start integrating your virtual agent with your broader system. And this is where you can leverage those connectors and add in flows. So the dialog that you see here on the right-hand side, I have the ability to create a flow from scratch if I don't have one yet. I can authenticate a user, or you can create skills or skill actions to put inside of your bot. And if you already have pre-existing flows, you'll see those in the drop-down list as well. I want to talk a little bit more about how you can leverage Power Automate and connect with your finance and operations data. So when you create a Power Virtual Agent, you're going to create that chatbot, and you can insert steps into a topic that call a Power Automate flow. The trigger for your Power Automate flow is a Power Virtual Agent's chatbot trigger. And so that's always going to be the first step in your Power Automate flow that's going to be triggered from Power Virtual Agents. And then you can use any of the connectors. So that can be your Dynamics 365, it could be Office, it could be SharePoint, it could be any of the 400 plus connectors that we have. And you can actually use multiple connectors in a single Power Automate flow. And then we have the ability to pass variables back. So oftentimes the last step in your flow, anything that you do in the middle is kind of up to you. And then the last step in your flow is where we pass variables back to the Power Virtual Agent. And that's oftentimes where I'm going to then display that information in the chatbot as a part of that conversation. You'll see an example of that in a demo a little bit later on. It's really important as well that as you're building your bot and building out your topic set, you'll want to test it. So there's a test bot pane that appears just to the right of the navigation pane on the left side of your screen, where you can see the test bot and try it out. You can type things in and watch it work and see it go down the different branches. There's also a slider right at the top of the test bot that's called track between topics. So oftentimes one topic might actually move you or lead to a different topic. And if you indicate that you want to track between topics, you can see what that entire flow looks like when you're navigating back and forth in a conversation between multiple topics. Once you're done testing, then you're ready to publish it. We typically recommend that you publish this out to a demo website so that you can test it before you put it on your actual website. And this is where you're going to invite users in your organization or maybe even external to your organization to use that demo website and share that with people so they can try the bot out and make sure that it's working and can answer their questions. Now, from an analytics standpoint, there are a number of different things, and we're not going to go into great detail on these, but each of these is a link that you can go read more information about the analytics that are available out of the box. You can access the analytics by clicking on the analytics option in the navigation pane from inside Power Virtual Agent, and there's a variety of reports available out of the box. The links here on this slide will help you kind of analyze and see what's going on, where you can easily see what's working and what needs to be improved, and quickly figure out what you should build next. What are customers asking about that the bot can't handle? Another thing, feature that we have with the Power Virtual Agents is the ability to suggest topics for your agent. And we do this by leveraging the AI platform that we have in Azure. So you can let the Microsoft AI determine powerful and potential topics that are going to be crafted from your organization's own web content. So we basically have the ability to look at your website or frequently asked questions and help suggest what topics and questions. So when you connect this up, the frequently asked question becomes a chatbot trigger, and the answer to your frequently asked question becomes a message text in the dialog tree. And it gives you a very easy way to just create single turn conversation in just a few minutes. Now, you do have the ability, like I said earlier, to extend your Power Virtual Agents by using the bot framework. What you can see here is a picture of the composer, and bots can be configured to suit those individual needs and use lots of different authentication provider supports and lots of skills that can help augment your bot's capabilities. It integrates with Teams and Facebook, and you can also do some direct embedding of a bot in web-based and mobile applications. It does require code, so you'll need someone a little bit more technical, but the new composer does give a little bit of a user interface so that your developers can customize that canvas and start creating more advanced skills for your particular bot. We do have a quick little video here that I'm going to show about the bot framework composer. So here you can see an example where we're typing in some code here on the language generation response, and then we're adding a step. So you can see there's a lot of different options that we can add here when you're using that composer. And on the left-hand side, we can define user input. So here, if I want to edit one of these, I just click that edit mode and I can start modifying that code very quickly and easily to change what type of user input I'm putting in. And you can see we can show and hide that code, but it does require a developer to be able to do this. It does have a little bit of a GUI here where you can kind of see the steps, but you still will need to write some code. All right, so what I want to do is switch gears to a quick demo where you can actually see how to create a bot. So we're in Power Virtual Agents, and we are going to, click that new bot button. And here on the dialog, we enter in the name and click create. You get a fancy little graphic while it's creating your bot. And then once the bot's created, you're going to be brought into Power Virtual Agents where you can click on topics and start updating your topics. So here you can see the 4 user and 8 system topics. We clicked on the greeting and we're going to edit that. So you click on that little hierarchy type button. That's what opens up the editor. And now we can update this. In our case, we're going to kind of change this to be, employee related for this particular example. So you just quickly and easily just type in what the message is. If you don't like a particular message, right, you can delete it by using the little ellipsis button on there. And now we're going to go into the test bot here on the left and try it out. So you can see the 3 messages there get displayed. Now, the next step in the process is to open up one of these and edit the details. So in this case, we chose one of the user topics, and so we're going to update the name and friendly name and give it a nice description. In that middle column, you can see the trigger phrases. So in the sample that was provided, you can see that it has a bunch of trigger phrases. We can add new trigger phrases, and that's a very simple process. You just type it into the enter a trigger phrase field and click add. And then we're going to go into the authoring canvas by clicking on that button in the upper right. So you can see that authoring canvas. And here, this is where I can see the steps. This is what came in the default one. If I don't like these, I can start deleting it. and build my own. So you can see we're deleting a few steps here that came in the default one. We're just going to tweak it a little bit and use a Power Automate flow for our example. So we're going to ask a question. So you click that plus icon and choose to add a question. We're going to type in, what our question is. So this is a question that we'll pose back to the user and then wait for a response from them. And then in this identify, instead of using a multiple choice, we're choosing a built-in entity. In our case, we're using the city built-in entity, and then we're updating the variable and storing that as the store city, so I can use it in a later step. So we click the plus icon to add another node. In this case, we're going to call an action. So in our example, we're going to be calling a Power Automate flow. You can see we've got the ability to create new ones, but we're going to scroll through here and pick the right one that we want. We can probably forward it just a few seconds to the selected the right flow. There we go. All right, so we pick the one we want, and you can see that Power Automate is passing back 10 different values, and we add a node. And we can end the conversation. We can, do another step, whatever we might want to do with our particular flow. So you can call 2 flows in a row. And once you're done making changes, then you can start to publish it. And then you're prompted to open that demo website. So now here you can see I'm on that demo website, and I can type in my trigger phrase. So I start out by saying hello. I can ask it a question like, what are the store hours? And I get my response back based on what we have built into our Power Virtual Agent. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Murali, who's going to walk us through a couple of different examples of Power Virtual Agents.
Thanks, Rachel. So I'm going to walk through some of the examples that we have. So one of the first one is a feature that we are landing in private preview. So first, we are bringing together Dynamics 365 e-commerce with Power Virtual Agent and Omni channel for customer service, so that you could do both sales kind of experience as well as customer service with it. So this feature, which lands in private preview, is going to enable you to embed your Power Virtual Agent chatbot on e-commerce website. So with with very little configuration in Site Builder, you can enable a chatbot on the e-commerce website. And lots of times you may have seen when you go to website, a chatbot or an agent chat pops up. We've enabling similar proactive chat experience based on a specific set of triggers. So you can light up the chatbot on specific pages, or if you're moving between specific pages, you may want to show that. You could also show this based on number of visits. So imagine a customer has come back to that page multiple times. You want to show that. Similarly, you could do it based on like other parameters like cart value, or based on number of items that the user has added in the cart. And then the entire context of who you are, because based on your login, as well as where you were, is then passed to the virtual agent, so that the virtual agent can use that to take action. So you don't have to sign in to the bot again with that. Even though bot also supports topics that can be built as authenticated and non-authenticated. Similarly, we are shipping with Power Virtual Agent conversation content pack. So you will have a pre-built set of topics that ship out of the box, and I'll show you some of those. So we are providing a set of content pack to jumpstart implementations. You can take this content pack and then you can then enhance for each of your implementations. So the different topic areas that are available are like store location services. You can find what are the store hours, where are the stores located, especially important during COVID times when the store hours vary. You can find what products are available in what stores, so you can look at availability. You can ask questions related to membership programs, like how do you enroll in membership program, what are my balance or points, which transactions have earned what points, etc. Similarly, you can ask questions on promotions and products. So find out what promotions are applied, or get recommendations on the products. And one of the biggest drivers in any retail industry has been like finding out where the order stands. How do I modify order? What are my return policies, and etc. So these are topics that you get out of box that can be modified and added. In addition, we are also supporting Omni-channel for customer service. So this is a product that's in Microsoft Dynamics 365 stack that allows live agents to talk to customers. And it works on multiple channels. So like you could have web chat, which is what we are enabling with e-commerce, but you can have voice channel as well as other channels like WeChat or Facebook. And similarly, so this chat widget will show up on a proactive criteria, and exact same criteria is available. And then based on the context of who you are and what you have done before, so as you chat with a customer, you may have provided different information. And that information can be used to route you to specific queues within the Omni-channel for customer service. And then as you may be aware, Commerce Call Center is a product, one of the modules in Commerce. And in order to enable agents to talk and handle and resolve issues for the customer, we are enabling Commerce Call Center to be embedded within the Omni-channel for customer service interface. And if you had your commerce data or FNO data available in CRM through other techniques like dual write or data integrator or virtual entities, then this technology will work with that as well. So one of the first demos I want to show you is how the chat widget has been put on e-commerce. So sorry, one sec. So here in this demo, you can see the bot is launched by the customer. And the customer is asking for store hours and a pre-built dialogue. The bot understands the trigger phrase. It's able to go through the conversation tree. It's asking for the question like, what's the city? And then it's able to actually show that information. So near Seattle, in this demo instance, we have 2 stores. It's able to show both of these using it's called the backend headless commerce API. And it's using adaptive cards to show this particular one. So this example contains both like a Power Automate, where we've used the headless commerce API, as well as bot framework skills to display this information. And you can see that being displayed. Going further, you can ask as many questions as you want with the bot. So like this is an example for stock product availability. So the user is asking, do you have this product in stock, and what product they are looking for? So it would be a sunglasses, the location where they are looking for, again, Seattle. And then you can see the information is then displayed, like which the product is available, what's the price, and how many are available, depending on the API's capability at the backend. So let's dive into other things. So this is another example. Here we put it on the Contessa Coffee website. So similar chat experience embedded on the stuff. It can also be embedded on Powerapps portal. So here the customer is asking for a product availability again. So I'll just quickly forward up. So you provides the exact city information, and then you can see the product information is available, retrieve. You can also retrieve any loyalty offers that are specific to the customer. So here there's also a mix and match available, and then you can retrieve the rating and other information as well. Here's an example of how we can build the bot. So I'm in the Power Virtual Agent authoring canvas, and you're looking at the product availability. So one of the first things is you can ask a question what the product you're searching for. Now, there are different types of input as we provided. There's an entity. So here, what you see is a user's entire response. So whatever they're providing is then taken as an input. And you can also see the pre-built entity like city that is being asked as an info. And then you can see here there's a pre-built action that we have. So like the Power Automate action to get the data for search availability is available, and then it returns like a set of information and a card array JSON. So what adaptive, basically the system is, the Power Automate is returning an array of JSON, which is then used by a bot framework skill to actually render it. So here's an example of bot framework skill that's embedded inside of Power Virtual Agent, and we are able to render the output that's provided as a card array inside of this one. And then finally, you have like an end of survey. So if you look at this, this is used to capture, it's a predefined system topic. So it's used to capture how well the bot has performed. So then you can use this metrics that come out of this to derive whether the user is happy with the topic. And then as an author, I can then continue and improve the product. Let's look at like quickly how this particular one. So one of the first things is there's a pre-built trigger. So this is a Power Virtual Agent node, and it then has a set of inputs that you provide. And this is an example of how we are calling the headless commerce API or retail server API. So basically you get the input, you get the like a environment variable for your UI environment with retail server URLs and everything. And then as I go further, you can see first we make a HTTP. So one of the nodes or connectors inside of Power Automate is to HTTP connector. So here we're making a HTTP connect request to get the products, and then the products provides an API output. You can then retrieve that output, and then you can do further steps, and then you can then send the output back to the Power Virtual Agent. So that's the example for that one. We also have like this is a screen. So when you add bot framework skills, you can link and add this ones from here. And then those skills are available for you in every node. So you basically then use the different mechanisms or skills that have been built to render this. Now, this is an example of Power Virtual Agents with Dynamics F&O connector. So within within the connectors in Power Automate, we also have a connector. So here what we are doing is basically this method is to get the customer details by email. So the bot would ask user for their email, or it would be passed as a context variable from the e-commerce. And then the system would then go into the customer entities, and it would then parse that and return back the values to the Power Virtual Agent so that it can render that. So you will see like how we are parsing the JSON that comes out of the customer entity and are able to pass the different values back to the Power Virtual Agent. Now you can use these values as like global variables so that it can be used across topics, or you could use it as a local variable within that topic as well. So that flexibility is also available. In this demo, what you're seeing is so there are two ways that if you want a live agent, then you can only you can use the Omni channel for customer service chat widget. Or if you wanted Power Virtual Agent, you can embed the Power Virtual Agent chat widget, and we showed that examples in the previous session. Or you can use a bot framework chat widget, and this is an example of bot framework chat widget. And you can have ability to pass context variables to that. So here you can see I'm logged into the website here, and you want to make it personal as you're doing it. So here I'm actually sending the context or a global variable to the sign in or greeting topic. So as soon as a bot is launched, the context is passed around. So the bot really knows who I am and it can then take personalized action on it. How do we enable this? So this is our site builder. So in e-commerce, the site builder is a point where you can manage the site. So you out of the box, you have a Power Virtual Agent chat connector that is available. You can choose to put it on like a footer. So the footer is a fragment that's available to all the pages. Or if you wanted to push it, put it on a specific page, you can do that. So here I'm in a wish list page, and in the container, we have added the Power Virtual Agent chat widget. And this particular is a simple configuration. So once you've got your Power Virtual Agent, you can retrieve this information from the Power Virtual Agent configuration, and you can simply light up your Power Virtual Agent on any e-commerce pages. So you can then brand and theme this for your how look and feel of your website. And you can also enable like proactiveness, as I mentioned. So you can set the proactive parameters, and it can be different for each page as well. And that's a very simple way to embed the Power Virtual Agent. Next, what you're seeing is example of how we have enabled Omnichannel for customer service, which is our live agent to be integrated. So you can see with a very simple script, you can like configure the live agent software, and the same proactiveness is enabled. So for example, in this example that I was showing you, like if somebody is coming to a page and waiting 15 minutes on a page, then the system will immediately prompt a message, say, hi, I'm just checking to see if I can help you, right? So if it can help people in making their purchasing decisions, and there are different triggers that you can enable with that. Like going next, so there are other parameters as I mentioned. So I'll go to the next demo. Sorry, I think yeah. So going next, I wanted to show you the example for live agent transfer and how that's enabled. So out of box, Power Virtual Agent basically has two handoff mechanisms. So we have a deep integration with Dynamics 365 for customer service. So Power Virtual Agent, with a few simple steps, you can configure the Dynamics 365 for customer service. And then the handoff happens to the live agents using the bot. And the entire conversation and the context is passed to the live agent, so that the live agent is not repeating themselves and asking the users again the same question. If the customer does not use Dynamics 365 customer service, then there's a ability to hand it over to a generic live chat provider. Then you can then integrate it to other systems, like say if the customer had Genesis or LivePerson, any of the other systems, then the handoff can happen to that. Here's an example of how it can easily configure. So on the settings of Power Virtual Agent, you can actually, you can connect with your system. So once you've connected, you can see the connection is available. And then within the topics, there is a pre-built topic called Escalate that gets triggered when the user says, I want to talk to an agent or is upset. So it gets into that. And then what happens is these trigger phrases are system trigger phrases that the NLP behind or AI engine understands it. And then the transfer to agent node is a pre-built node, and this allows you to basically send across the information like any private messages to the agent, and it also sends the entire context of the information. And then within a topic, like say there are topics, but within a specific section, for example, if like for example, this is process return. Imagine you want to do exchange, and exchange can only be done by an advisor or an agent. In such a case, you can show a message to that you're transferring without a canvas change to the to the live agent, and then you can then pass a specific message as well. And this could include variables as well. And you can immediately test this, like all the flows that you've done in the test designer. So as you test it, you can also see the context variables that are passed. So for example, here, I have just directly done, I want to talk to an agent. So that the trigger phrase that actually resulted in the transfer, the conversation, and the transcript for that conversation can be sent. So imagine if the user was coming in from multiple topics and then had come back, so that conversation is also available. And then the entire history of previous conversations is also available. So so that also helps the user to ensure that the repeat customers also are taken care. Now, this is a Omni channel for customer service. This is where the live agent software administration happens. So one of the first things is, like, as you can see on the left hand side, the Omni channel for customer service supports multiple channels. And for the commerce, we are using the web chat channel. And this is a configuration. So you can come here, configure how you want your channel. And the simplest you can take is, like, I can take this code that's available, embed it on my website, and then you are automatically able to do it. But that doesn't help you because there's no proactiveness or authentication pass with that. And then, so this is the configuration, and you have live chat workstream, which is actually the central point where you can define a lot of things, like the context variables which get passed between e-commerce and the Power Virtual Agent, as well as the customer service. And you can also define routing rules. So you can define routing rules dictate which queues or which items get the initial conversation. So when I launch a chat widget on e-commerce, for example, I have bot as my first line of defense. So if the bot is not able to answer the questions, then it gets routed to the next queue, which is like a customer service or human agent queue. I can also have multiple queues, and I can set the priority up and down based on that. So there's multiple ways, and you can move the queues up and down as well. And the queue or routing is based on context variables. So as you see this loading up, you can define different context variables, and the context variables dictate which queue are going to that. So if the bot actually is sending you a context variable, you can use that to decide where you're going. So for example, if you wanted to route it to agents who are in Houston queue, you can use that to use the variables that get sent back by bot to dictate that. So here's an example of live agent transfer. So like basically on the same e-commerce website, you come in, you want to talk to an agent. Because here the customer is not happy based on what he has said. So it goes to a topic called fallback, and then from there it's routed to an agent. And what you're seeing now is the agent interface. The context from e-commerce has got passed across, and you can see the customer account and everything. Now the agent has ability to accept the request. If not, it will go to the next agent in that queue. Once the agent has accepted the request, he gets the entire chat transcript available to him. He's also able to have the the sentiment of the customer. What you can also see is that we have enabled the embedding of Commerce Call Center within the agent interface now, and it has a deep link to the customer, so that the customer record is open. And what you also see here is there's a multi-session interface. So you can see, like, the agent can chat with multiple users based on the capacity that is set up for him. And as he's tabbing across, he's talking to the right customer. His information is refreshed in this particular tab, so that he's able to provide the best service possible to the customers. And then he can also elevate this to a video call. And then a third-party ISVs that allow screen sharing as well within the system. Rachel, I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks. So we're going to talk a little bit about our do's and don'ts. We've put together a kind of guideline for you, if we can go to the next slide, of how to make a successful chatbot. So as you start deploying your chatbots, we recommend that you start with one relevant channel, like a web chat or a Teams chat, for example, and then you can start to expand to other channels like Facebook and so on. You'll want to make sure that you clearly define the purpose of what your chatbot can accomplish in the greeting without using a menu. Don't think of a chatbot like a menu or a navigation setup like your website. And it's important to remember that the first contact matters the most in most of your business and interactions. Try to provide a solution to the question within the conversation interface, and don't just redirect people to another website or another link. You'll want to use your Power Virtual Agents entities to capture user inputs, and this also helps in skipping steps if the user input has been provided earlier in the conversation in user queries or in previous turns, and allows more natural conversation. Also, you'll want to ensure that your solution is short, precise, and concise. It's very hard to read long paragraphs in chatbots, depending on the screen size. You'll also want to allow your users to change their mind and fork your conversations, and build out a human handoff story. Power Virtual Agents have pre-built escalate system topics and transfer to agent nodes that allow you to easily integrate with your engagement hub or office. And we do have that native integration with the Dynamics 365 Omni channel, which you just saw from Murali. Make sure you're also using testers who are not familiar with the design of your topics and conversations to help provide your minimum viable product rollout in a better way. The design bias will be removed when you use that approach. So let's take a quick look at some do's and don'ts. Make sure that you're creating and using managed solution to move your bots between environments. You'll also want to make sure that you're sharing your bots with the appropriate users in your organization. Anyone who you share that bot with will have ability to contribute to that bot. So much like we share Powerapps, you'll want to share your Power Virtual Agents. You'll also want to make sure that you configure the end user authentication and decide if you're using authenticated or unauthenticated topics, in your particular bot. You'll also want to get familiar with how to respond to GDPR requests with data related to your virtual agents. Don't use long paragraphs of tests, and don't test with just small internal only teams. Make sure you have a diverse, variety of users that are testing it and that are outside of the team that's building the bot. Make sure that you're building bots with human handoff. So if you don't build the human handoff, that could leave your customers or employees or whoever's using that bot frustrated. And don't skip out on the analysis of your bot post go live. It should be a continuous kind of development cycle where you're always looking to make improvements. So with that, we're going to wrap up very quickly with our checklist of resources and some links. So we did have a few questions come in around the application lifecycle management and kind of how you manage your bots. I do strongly encourage you to check out the tech talk that focuses specifically on ALM around the Power Platform. And then you're going to go through that process of creating bots, getting the right licenses, making solutions, topics, testing, enhanced authoring, and then publishing. We've got some links in here on each of these steps to make sure that you kind of checkbox off all those different things that you need to do when you're deploying your first bot. Our last slide here has a few additional resources that you can use to help you get started on your journey. We've got documentation, lots of training, including Power Virtual Agents in a day, as well as a variety of videos that you can get started with. So I encourage you to check out these resources to get started on your journey. With that, we'll open it up for questions. We don't have any in the queue right now. I've answered all the questions, but I can review the few questions that did come in. So someone had asked about the licensing requirements for Power Virtual Agents. You don't get any Power Virtual Agents licensing with your finance and operations, so you do have to purchase that. It's a flat price, list price for 2,000 chat sessions per month, and I posted a link into the Q&A about that. We also had, like I said, some questions about the ALM and whether or not you can use Azure DevOps. And so I did post in a few links. That Tech Talk that I referred to is a great resource where you can kind of see how it all works. But I also posted a second link into the Q&A that is specific to how to use Azure DevOps for your automated ALM story with the Power Platform. It doesn't look like we have any more questions in the queue, and we're a few minutes over, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to Evan to talk about our survey and wrap us up today.
Awesome. Thank you, Rachel. Like she said, I've posted a link to a short survey in the Q&A panel. We'd like your feedback on today's session and to hear what we'd like to see in future sessions. That survey scores on a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the highest score possible, and we thank you for your participation in that. As a reminder, the recording will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within 5 business days. So this concludes today's broadcast, and I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters and a thank you to our audience for logging in and joining us today. Please stay safe and have a great rest of your day or evening wherever you are. Goodbye.